Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 6 brings the conflict between the Man of Steel and Lex Luthor to a new fever pitch, all while expanding on several key stories for the DC series. With only 4 episodes left until the live-action Superman show concludes, the final stakes are beginning to become clear for the Kent family and those they've connected with over the years. Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 5 saw the family's personal connection to Doomsday neutralize him as a threat, setting the stage for Lex Luthor to be the final villain left to face. Opening with Lex Luthor in a berserk rage, Episode 6 quickly underlines the actual impact of Lex choosing his grudge with Lois and Superman over being in his daughter's life, teeing the episode up for some even more unhinged acts of malice from the iconic DC villain. Ultimately, however, the story focuses on what's still stopping Luthor from getting his full revenge on the Man of Steel and Lois Lane, though by doing so, it also shows very clearly just how much danger every single person in Smallville could really be in. Smallville stands up against Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's plans are stopped by Smallville's residents, who may be onto Clark's double life. Michael Kudlitz as Lex Luthor crosses his arms in Superman and Lois Season 3. When Lex Luthor's plan sees him offer Smallville resident A.D. Manning a huge amount more than her land is worth for her to sell to him so he can build a new headquarters, Clark and Lana Lang go to talk to her about not going through with the sale. Interestingly, during the discussion, A.D. defers to Clark, telling him that her not taking Lex's huge sum of money is nothing compared to what you sacrificed, which appears to directly imply she knows Clark is Superman, and that this is what leads her to refuse the sale. Smallville's residents then more collectively stand up against Luthor when he tries to pressure AD into still going through with the deal, despite Lex offering each person present at the bar the scene takes place in $10 million if it succeeds. While some of this is sure to simply be the moral fiber of the town, who have shown before they will band together to protect one another, the fact this is in conjunction with more of the Superman and Lois Season 4 cast revealing they've also worked out Clark Kent is Superman does feel particularly notable, suggesting Smallville may be standing up for the hero specifically. Superman deals with aging. Superman Season 4 story sees him become more human than ever. Superman looking surprised in Superman and Lois Season 4. Clark spends a considerable portion of Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 6 concerned with the emergence of grey hair starting to crop up on his head, which troubles him enough that he goes to buy hair dye to conceal these signs of aging. Though this initially seems like a bit of a lighter story to balance out Season 4 and some of its more intense stories, the importance of this call is made clear by Clark, who explains that he worries seeing Superman suddenly looking older right now could concern the general public. It's also worth noting that these grey hairs appeared after the heart transplant replaced Superman's Kryptonian organ with a human heart, serving as another sign of Clark's now altered physical setup and how it is affecting him and his body. The suggestion once again that Clark is going through some considerable changes because of this overall ordeal is definitely a pertinent one with new battles set for the future, especially since Clark and Lex have now already had their first bout. Superman and Lex Luthor get in a street brawl. Superman and Lex Luthor go toe-to-toe thanks to his schemes. Lex Luthor looking off-screen in Superman and Lois. In a move that is something almost directly out of a comic book, Lex tries to have Lana Lang assassinated for her efforts in ensuring A.D. Manning doesn't sell her property to Luthor, and then when Clark Kent goes to confront him, Luthor reveals he's had the entire road outside of his base set up so the street lamps can turn to what appears to be red sun energy at his signal. Since Superman is without his powers, the two instead engage in a good old-fashioned street fight, set to the fitting sounds of Idols when the lights come on, which the episode is named after. It's an entertaining fight, and one that effectively works to let the two have a bit of a brawl while justifying why Clark doesn't just immediately win. However, the fight takes something of a turn when Clark, still furious that Lex would try and kill his childhood friend over his grudge, begins to choke Luthor for an extended period of time, only releasing his grip when he sees Lois and his sons have appeared. This appears to have knocked the Man of Steel considerably, believing he's shown his nemesis that on some level he's no better than the villain when it comes down to it. Since Lex's goals weren't to simply kill the Kent family, but rather destroy all Lois and Clark hold dear, it's entirely possible Lex may be angling more to have Clark betray his own values and morals as Superman during their conflicts, which makes what exactly his plan is going forward all the more interesting. Jordan and Jonathan balance their hero lives. Jordan and Jonathan Kent deal with balancing their superhero responsibilities. Jordan and Jonathan Kent sitting together in the Superman and Lois TV show. Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 6 sees Jonathan taking to superhero work with a commitment that is commendable, but also considered too intense by everyone in his life. Clark and Lois tell Jonathan he's overworking himself, and he even mentions his missing meals in order to be speeding across the world around the clock. This surge of activity partially appears to be simply born out of the excitement Jonathan feels about having powers, but he also reveals later in the episode that he's trying to make up for his dad still being in recovery and for Jordan taking a step back from the superhero sphere during this time. Jordan learning Jonathan is partially making up for him not being an active hero appears to be what was needed to spur him back into using his powers, with the pair offering to fly their friend Sarah to the places she's been looking at now she's set to study abroad. Given so much of the focus of Season 4 is on the brothers' parents and their conflict with Lex Luthor, seeing the two learn how to balance their superhero lives is an promising development, and further raises the possibility of them taking over from Superman at the show's ending. Lex Luthor's biggest upgrade gets a promising setup. Superman and Lois seem set for a version of Lex Luthor's warsuit. The final scene of Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 6 holds some delightful promise for the future of the show and what particular kind of threat Lex Luthor is set to be. With Doomsday having disappeared since Lois talked with him, and with Lex's plans to buy A.D. Manning's land and beat Clark in a fight having both failed, Luthor's ally and teased love interest Amanda McCoy tells the villain she's committed to helping him in his mission to take down Lois and Superman. In fact, she suggests Lex has been going about things the wrong way, and that the first thing we need to do is get you a killer suit. Given this is said regarding Luthor's conflict with Superman, it seems this line sets up the arrival of Lex's warsuit, a mechanical suit used in the comics and some adaptations to level the playing field between the human Luthor and his Kryptonian enemy.